I never thought we'd be talking about bull semen on Entrenched. I just didn't think
listen,
that was going to be a thing, but
listen,
here we are.
I want to know the one thing about Entrenched. We go in many different directions, all right? And in this particular case, we've gone in a direction we probably shouldn't go. But, you know, our viewers really want to know what's going on in the life of a guy like Matt Slauson, a big dog, a former interior lineman in the National Football League. You need to make your own fun. As a line coach, I'm behind the curtain and I'm just pulling strings. My style is bold, loud, abrasive. I'm opinionated. I'm brutally honest, and I am direct. There's a reason I'm sitting here and not standing on the sideline somewhere coaching up an offensive line. Unfortunately, in this day and age, that's not exactly the style people are looking for. I want to talk about the detailed things that nobody wants to talk about. I want to talk about the real analysis. These men that we're going to bring on can give great insight to those types of things. That's what this program's going to be about.
Welcome back to Entrenched with Coach Googe. My name is Dylan Vazano, coming at you from sunny, steamy South Florida. We're talking all O-line all the time, the most important position group in the most popular sport in America. Today, our big dog guest, he played at the University of Nebraska, a 6th round pick to my New York Jets. He played for the Jets, the Bears, the Chargers, the Colts. He played in 116 games. He started in 113 of them. It's Matt Slauson. Coach Googe, I know that this is a big dog and someone super important to you.
Very important to me. You know, as a coach, you have your guys, and you like to bring a guy with you that will help influence a room, that will help develop the younger players, but also get veteran players to gel together. Matt is the kind of guy that embodies all that football was meant to be, and it was for many, many years. Things have changed, but we'll hear through his story how different the mindset was, even a short time ago. This wasn't very long ago that Matt played. He's a warrior. He's a tough son of a bitch. He's an angry player. This isn't your fleet of foot, elite athlete kind of player. This is a phone booth, street brawling kind of guy who was very intelligent and brought a command to a room that I really was unmatched with any other player. And because of that, I was instrumental in bringing him to, when I had him at the Jets, I ended up getting him when he left Chicago, brought him to San Diego, and definitely brought him to Indianapolis, and then helped him get into the coaching world by bringing him down and using him in training camp as really a player coach during that time when I was with Brian Flores and the Dolphins.
Well, I know when I think of my fandom with the New York Jets, that's such a special time when Matt Slauson was there, a couple of AFC championship games. I remember him very fondly, but you think of 10 years in the NFL, we just read 116 games, 113 starts, yet really kind of not a household name. If you think of, well, if he was a receiver or a running back or maybe a tight end, defense, something like that. And that's kind of one of the things here on Entrenched. Why do you think that is the case? 10 years in the NFL, but not really a household name.
And not just 10 years in the NFL. Played in the New York, New Jersey market, played in the Chicago market, played in San Diego and then Los Angeles when they moved to LA. So he played in some major media markets. But that's the nature of the beast. These types of players, these guys that really help the league run, are not recognized and not valued to the point where they're put on ESPN. They're not put out there. They're not those special athletes and unique players. They're not the $30 million a year contract guys. These are the grunts that do the heavy lifting. These are the guys, you know, my dad's a carpenter, and he always used to say, somebody needs to carry the shingles, meaning not everybody can be the skilled tradesman that's up on the roof laying the shingles down. Somebody's got to carry those stacks up the ladder. And you know what? This guy's a shingle carrier. This is one of those guys that carried shingles, and those guys aren't recognized. The guys doing all the skill work and all the finish work, those guys get the notoriety, and that's what InTrench'd is about.
Well, it's an incredible story. Super pumped to get to it. Let's go and talk to this big dog. Here on InTrench'd, we have had Patriots, we've had Dolphins. I think you know why I'm fired up. We talked about it in the intro, of course. Played for the Colts, played for the Bears, played for the Chargers, but finally on InTrench'd, a New York Jet. Fired up. for Matt Slauson.
Well, let's not promote the jet thing, all right? Because although I'm sure Slaw he's proud of the jet thing, at this moment in time, being a jet is not exactly how you want to be labeled. But at the same time, you would talk about big dog. What is the whole embodiment of a big dog and being a badass and a tough guy, and that's what Matt Slauson is, and that's why it's important to hear his story and to find out what it's like to be in the head and in the body of a big dog. That's what we're doing, and that's what we got. We got Slaw. We got the raw dog, the Slaw dog, direct from Shittsville, Nebraska. No, I'm sorry.
Is that official?
No, it's not. I don't think that's the official town name. What's the name of the town?
Hallam, Nebraska.
Hallam,
Nebraska.
Not to be confused with Hallam. It's in Hallam, but it's close enough. It's Hallam, Nebraska, which is a quite a place to be for a guy that's been in places like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. I won't throw Indianapolis in there because it doesn't really fall to that same category of big-time cities, but it is a big city. On the way out to Hallam, Nebraska. But initially, you went to the Air Force High School, Air Force Prep, I guess that was, on your way to the Air Force Academy. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
you're a big man. To think of you stuffed in a cockpit of a jet is a little bit kind of perplexing to me.
Yeah, there's a little bit of nuance to that. My plan was to go to University of Oregon. That was kind of my dream. My mom was a sprinter for University of Oregon back in the 70s. My uncle played offensive line for Oregon back in the 60s. So that was just kind of my plan, my hope. But a big part of the problem was I was the only D1 athlete in the history of my school. So there was a lot of doubt surrounding me. The thought of playing big time college football was a myth. My dad, I think he started to buy into the doubt of the small town doubt. He's not smart enough, big enough, strong enough. So I had an older brother at the Air Force Academy, and I think his fear was if I go to Oregon, I wouldn't be good enough. Then I'd sort of wash out, and then what? You don't know what you're going to do then. When you go to a military academy, your life is set up for you. So yeah, the big joke is I'd never fit in a plane, and that's true. But the reality is I wouldn't have flown. I wouldn't have flown anything if I would have gone. If I would have continued on at the Air Force, I probably would have stayed on as an active military coach, honestly.
Well, they have different jobs in the military. I'm sure there's plenty of big people in the Air Force that, lug carts around and shit like that and do whatever it is.
I still would have loved the visual, though, of you flying the plane and being in the cockpit.
You'd fill up a helicopter.
Yeah.
There's no question you would fill up a helicopter.
So Air Force situation was a safety net for me. So when I opted to go to their preparatory school, and so essentially you're playing against all the junior colleges that are all feeding into Nebraska and Oklahoma and USC and all this. And I had success. So I was like, oh, shoot, I might be able to do this for real. So then I left Air Force. Obviously Nebraska was the huge get for me. Nebraska was like the New England of college back in the 90s, born in 86. So I really started watching college football in the 90s, kind of that late grade school, middle school time when Nebraska was absolutely kicking the shit out of everybody. I hated Nebraska. But as far as NFL teams goes, I was a big Oakland fan because in Oregon, you don't have a team. So your choices are Seattle, and they're a bunch of dumb fucks, or San Francisco, and they're about the same. So I sort of identified a little bit more with the Oakland Raiders. That's when their offensive line is giant, bearded, tattooed, just psychopaths. And who's their coach? Callahan. And so when I got the opportunity to go on a visit to Nebraska and Callahan's their coach, this is kind of a dream situation for me. And yeah, as soon as Callahan saw me, he said, I don't have a scholarship for you, but I'll find one. If you want to come here, I'll find one. And he did. So I walked on the first day. I had a scholarship on the second day. They took it away from the center buddy of mine. So yeah, I came into Nebraska. I was like the seventh string tackle when I came in, and throughout training camp, I beat out a couple guys. A couple guys got hurt. Then I beat out another guy, and when the season began, I was the backup tackle as a true freshman, and it was about week 8. Our senior tackle, Seppo Avare, he was a all Big 12 tackle. He broke his foot and he was done. And I thought Callahan was going to bring me in and cut me and bring somebody else in who could actually play. So after that game that Seppo got hurt in, his secretary called me at like 10 o'clock at night. And she's like, "Coach wants to see you now." I was like, "Oh shit, okay." So I grab my playbook, and so I go in and see him, and Callahan says, "Take a seat." And I sit, and he goes, "You ready?" I was like, "Yep," kind of hanging my head. And he goes, "All right, you're going to be the guy the rest of the year." I was like, "Wait, what?" He goes, "Yeah, you're gonna start the rest of the year. You've been doing a good job as a backup, doing that jumbo tight end, field goal block, and I've been watching you on the scout team stuff. You're doing good, and I think you'll be just fine." So
it's funny how perception and reality,
Yeah, right.
A good player never perceives himself as being as good as he really is. That's true.
I think it is true.
Yeah, that's what makes them good.
Yeah, you're constantly trying to hone your edge, and I think it's that fear that gets you there. The fear of failure, fear of not being good enough. So it just drives you to do more, work more, study more, everything.
And I think that's true across everything. And even as a coach, you don't want to fail. That the fear of failure and fear of looking like a fool or fear of not sending your men out there prepared drives you to stay up all night long and watch extra film and do more. And really, it drives you to those things that you do to prove yourself that you're not, that you shouldn't fear those things. Those are the things that make you great. And those are the things that give you success as a coach, as it does as a player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
100% agree.
Yeah.
So that next week of practice, we have Adam Carricker and Jay Moore are our defensive ends. Adam Carricker was first team All-American. He was drafted, I think, number 13 overall or something like that, as a nose guard. A DN gets drafted as a nose guard to the Rams. So he was the biggest freak in the world. And Jay Moore was an all Big 12 DN for us. And so that next week at practice, those two just absolutely teed off on me. And I was like, dang, if I wasn't getting cut after the last game, I'm getting cut now for sure. And after that practice was over, that Tuesday practice, Callahan did the team breakdown, and he goes, "Everybody, okay, go in, get showered, do what you got to do. Let me see Slauson, Carricker, and Jay Moore. You guys stay out here on the field." And this is where I think my football career kind of changed. He just put us on a line, and he said, "Slauson, that practice wasn't what I wanted to see, so we're gonna fix it right now." And he goes, "Give me an 8-hole reach." And he had Adam line up across from me, and he goes, "Slauson's going to do an 8-hole reach here, and you go as hard as you possibly can." And so he says, "Set hut." I go. Carricker caves my face in. I'm on my back, and all I hear is, "Again." And I get up. It's Jay Moore's turn. 8-hole reach. Set hut. Jay caves in my face again, again. And we did this like 15 times. I'm crying. I'm bleeding from my nose. I got snot coming out. I'm, bleeding from my ears. I'm just like, I'm done. I'm not good enough. And all I hear is again. And I'm just like, shit. Okay. This is going to be the last rep of college football I ever play. So I'm going to give it hell. And it was against Adam, and he goes, "Set hut." And I made it a decision. If this is going to be my last rep I play, I'm going to throw everything I got into it. And I caught Adam right under the chin, drove him back about 5 yards, and just planted him in the dirt. And he goes, "All right, Adam, Jay, you're done. Go in and shower." And he goes, "Slaw, whatever just happened needs to happen before every single play." And I said, "Got you, coach. I got that." And from there on, I was fine.
Well, you know, it's amazing because we talk about old school coaching, challenging players, putting them into compromising situations, being demanding to a point of when you say again and again and again. It's reminiscent of Herb Brooks.
Yeah, I was just going to say Miracle when he blows away again.
You know, you put players in a position where they're at the end of the rope. They're at the end of the line physically and mentally, and they have to. You're going to make a decision at that point. Which way are you going to go? Are you going up or are you going down? And you made the decision to go up. But to me, what you just described is the reason coaches exist. That's that guy, and obviously he's a great coach. I mean, let's we can preface that with everybody knows who Bill Callahan is. His reputation is such. But that guy helped you become a man that day in regards to the offensive line and playing line, and it changed your career. And in turn, it changed your life. And in turn, it changed your whole perception of yourself, the game, what you could accomplish. Like that little experiment, that little adventure, whatever he put you through, that task changed so much. And I think that we lose sight of the fact that that's what coaches are for. Nowadays, that doesn't exist anymore. That isn't allowed anymore because everybody, well, you're being too hard and you're being insensitive and he helped you, ultimately he helped you have a career and make a lot of money and set your family up for life.
That 10 minutes that he spent right there set my career on a path to success. And it didn't mean I kicked everybody's ass every play, but he unlocked a part of me that I didn't know that I had. He knew I had it, but I didn't know. And you know, when you have a great coach, and what we're talking about here, it's such a shame. It's a travesty to football that coaches aren't allowed to do this anymore, because good coaches turn coaching into like a crucible, right? You have to break everything down to the very beginning and build these players back up. And, you know, players come in with their own preconceived notions, their own limitations, their own beliefs, and you have to be able to just break that player down. And the good players want it to happen because that's when they get better. But I wouldn't have even been a player if not for that 10 minutes he spent just breaking me down to the beginning.
Well, drill sergeant effect. You know, the drill sergeant breaks down an individual and turns him into a Marine. And in order for them to do that, they have to crack them. They have to crack them down and eliminate everything they ever thought they knew and create something, right? And as a coach, if players could do that naturally on their own, you wouldn't need coaches. Right. And that's the whole point of being demanding with players and expecting a lot more, because we as coaches, you know, if you're a good coach, you can recognize when a guy has it, and it's your job to bring it out of him. And sometimes bringing it out of him requires you to do things like Bill did with you. And I'm happy to hear this story. It's the first time I'm hearing this story. So to me, I think it's a great example of what coaching is all about.
Yeah, it sounds like a life-changing situation from coaching, and kind of to continue that. And with Nebraska, I would love to get your take on the direction of the program. Now you got Matt Rule over there. He's got a little smirk right now on his face, but the head coach now in Nebraska, the program, where do you see him right now?
Well, so I give him a pass for Carolina because, as you know, college and pro is almost two completely different sports.
Yeah. The word out of the building was that the players didn't feel he was a pro coach. He didn't treat them in a pro manner.
And I can see that.
And
yes, I've heard Chip Kelly was kind of in that same mode also. You know, he tried to turn his teams in the NFL into what he did in college. You can't treat pro players the same way you can treat college players. You know, we talked about that a little bit the other day. when it comes to coach-player relationship in the pros, you have to be a true team, whereas coach and player, you guys are working together to achieve something. College is completely different. Those coaches are your dad away from home, so there definitely is an authoritative hierarchy going on there. And from what I understand, Chip Kelly and Matt Rule both tried to do that authoritarian crap in the NFL, and that doesn't work there, in my opinion. Obviously, Belichick kind of changes.
Well,
that argument
there are different styles: Coughlin, Parcells, Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of guys in that mode that they have their own way of motivating their team, and but it's also. Those are pro coaches too. They're not college coaches trying to, they come with battle scars, and they come with stripes, and they come with trophies and rings. Yeah. I mean, they come with credibility. Okay, you're still giving them a chance, which is great. But I want to talk. I don't want to talk about Matt Rule. I want to talk about Matt Slauson. I want to talk about the raw dog. Okay, so yeah, I got it. You got that red blood. You got that Nebraska red running through you, and that's admirable. That's great. Show me the little trophy the plaque you got behind you there, the Nebraska plaque, the one there, because I find this fascinating here. Okay, we got 147 knockdowns and 113 pancakes, and that's not pancakes consumed. Okay, that's
can we
not
confirm? Is that
well? We can't. I mean, I'm sure he could probably get close. You look like you still could handle a good stack. You know what I'm saying? You're not a short stack ordering guy. I would just, it's like when they look at me when I say I would like could I get an unsweetened tea, and they go large or small.
And it's like,
come on, just kick me in the nuts, embarrass me with that. Like, what do I look like? I look like a large or small guy? Of course, large. It's one of those deals. But again, talk to me here. You went to Bill Callahan again.
He was my football dad in college, and then he continued to be my football dad at the beginning of my pro career. Part of it was, and as you know, Bill, he's a arrogant guy. To be as good as you are at that level, you kind of have to be. Googe, you are too. I am too. We're arrogant guys because we believe how we do things is correct. And
arrogance
we were convicted in that.
Arrogance or confidence? That's
fine line.
And there is a fine line. I think there is a fine line there.
Yeah, and I think it gets blurred at times.
Sure.
Kind of both of those.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I'm an arrogant fucker because as you are, and I think that's why we understand one another. And the more I think about it, the more you're correct. You have to have a little bit of that swagger, and otherwise you don't survive in that level.
Yeah, and I think some of it is putting on that mask of maybe you don't feel as confident, maybe you don't feel like you belong, but kind of a fake it till you make it type of thing going on. And when it came to Bill and his arrogance, and I use that term lovingly as I do for your arrogance and for my arrogance, he refused to be wrong about me. He stuck his neck out to draft me. The other side to that coin was I got drafted to the best offensive line in the game. I mean, we were number one in rushing in 2009, number one in rushing 2010.
Yep.
And
and music to my ears. You keep talking about this.
My co-host,
this is my favorite part. Keep going.
He's a Jet guy, so here we go.
And I think even in 2008, before I got there, I think we were top 3 in rushing in that year. When I came in, Callahan said, "Your job is to back up Allen, watch everything he does as a pro, and just do that." He's been playing for a long time. He's absolutely going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So if you handle yourself professionally as he does, you will be fine. And then watch Nick Mangold at center. If you know the game like Nick knows it, then you will be fine.
I always say Nick Mangold, and I've coached really good centers, many first rounders. This guy could fly the space shuttle. I swear to you, if you asked, if you asked me some of the smartest people I've been around in the game, this guy could get in the cockpit of the shuttle and fly it to the moon. Like this guy's a brilliant individual. Okay.
and he didn't have to try.
He knew the game, and he could see it. He could conceptualize
Yeah.
things in an unbelievable way. And it was he was a unique guy in that regard. Most guys, and most centers have an understanding of the game. You have to play that at the professional level. You got to know what's going on because you set the table. So that's a serious position to play mentally, being able to verbalize it, things like that. But yeah, Nick was something else now.
One of the things I'm ultra curious about, because you go from Bill Callahan to my man Googe over here, what was that transition like for you in terms of coaching from Callahan to Googe?
Well, this is the first time now in the last 7 years of playing football that I'm not with Callahan. So I'm a little nervous. I'm entrenched in the way Callahan does things, and so Googe and I kind of struggled in the beginning, and it wasn't anything bad. I was just having trouble conceptualizing some of the things that he was bringing in, different thoughts on how to look at the game. I was kind of struggling with that when you talk about the 1-2 LOS and the 0-1-2-3 blocking. It was just a way that I've never looked at the game, and Googe's personality is very, very different. Callahan would be very businesslike, which I know is kind of weird to think about in the football world, but that's really how Callahan commanded the room. Very businesslike. This is what we're doing. There's no joking around. There's no anything. And then Googe comes in, and he's loud. And God, Googe, I love that you quit chewing tobacco. I love that. But God, do I miss that. I miss you coming in with this huge wad in your cheek.
All right.
The visual here.
Hold on.
You start coughing and dying, and the whole room would just go berserk because we're like, oh my God, he's dying right now. He's dying.
So basically you enjoyed watching me choke on my leaf spit, my big wad of leaf in my cheek. Yes. I would get into the
And you guys would what? Just be like howling, laughing, freaking out.
You'd be chewing Austin Howard's ass, or Vlad, you'd be chewing him out or something, and you just catch a little bit of that spit in your throat. You just be like, ah.
It was a tough time in my life. Let's just say that it was I went through a phase. It might have been the reason I stopped chewing.
Oh man!
Because I don't be honest with you. At that point, after that, I don't think I chewed again after that. Because I don't know. I didn't chew at Indianapolis years later.
No, huh?
So I mean, I was at that point.
No, you didn't chew at the Chargers. You didn't chew in Indy. You didn't chew in Miami.
Yeah. So I think I put it to rest with my Jet experience, with a lot of other things. I put the rest after the Jets can get you to do that.
Yeah.
Not that we've had a discussion earlier about the Jets and about the facility there. And I always talked about the cafeteria there. What the cuisine, was off the charts now. I mean, it
good
was
stuff.
Good
Like,
Slaw.
can we break this down
Slaw.
a little bit further?
How good was the food at that place?
I have not experienced an organization that would give absolutely everything to the players like that. I will say I do think the Colts are a pretty good organization. Jim Irsay gives everything.
He tries.
He tries. But there's a couple other things in the way of that when you're looking at the nutrition strength staff that kind of limit the cafeteria stuff.
But the Jets, the food.
Leading the league in food. I mean, what can we get some examples here?
I mean, they have everything. You want burgers, you want steaks, you want fish. They had a sushi bar there. Everything you would want every single day.
And the head chef would buy bread fresh in Brooklyn and bring it over every day from Brooklyn, from the Italian bakery. And let me tell you, you talk about a sandwich. You talk about a chicken cutlet sandwich with roasted red peppers, sun-dried tomatoes, prosciutto, and freshly made mozzarella sliced perfectly, all put together on the fresh Italian bread. Let me tell you. And I'm not talking like some bush league, make it in your kitchen now. This this shit came. It was like it came right out of the Italian deli.
Damn, it's making me hungry.
It was.
This is fantastic.
And you could get as much as you wanted of anything you wanted there. And if it wasn't there and you asked, they'd find a way to make. I mean, they were just top notch people, top notch. In terms of their food quality was unbelievable. There were a lot of things about the Jets that people can't imagine, but just a lot of great things about that situation. And, you know, it's funny because you mentioned the change between Bill to me, which, you know, and with every coach, you played for a whole bunch of coaches in the league, and they all have different different personalities, different coaching philosophies, different way of communicating. I really felt like as much as you didn't want to let Bill down, you also were very conscious of giving me what I wanted. And good players know that, okay, I'm going to ask the questions, and I'm going to try to give this fucker everything he's asking for. You're gonna show me that you're the player that we all know you to be. And I think that relationship, I also gave you a little leeway because you're intelligent. And where there were other guys in the room, I didn't want to fucking talk to. I didn't want to ask because, you know, that I didn't care about their opinion because they weren't intelligent, cerebral players. And I think when you have a guy that can think and be physical, you got something. And I think that deserves a little respect.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And it goes both ways. You know, I remember when you got hired there at the Jets and I came in and saw you. I sat down in your office with you. And again, this is my first experience of being without Bill. And I'm sitting in your office, you know, talking to you about your family, talking to you about football, talking to you about other guys you have coached. And in that meeting, Rich Incognito called you. And you took the call, and I was listening in. It was kind of the first thought or the first time in my career where I'm like, man, this guy has guys. He just has guys. And
well, he's a fellow
coach,
Nebraska guy too. That not only did you play the same position, but he was also a fellow Cornhusker, which is
And we were in the same division. We wore the same number. Still, both wore the ridiculous neck rolls, and there was some of my douchebaggery play that I modeled after him.
Sure,
but it was the first time that I realized like coaches have guys that they connect with and they stay with throughout their career. And I was like, man, I would love to be one of his guys. And I felt like it wasn't too long after that I did become one of your guys.
Oh, it didn't take long.
I think it speaks a lot to your leadership. And I know that Gooch just spoke about when trying to get you to the Chargers and then the Colts, your ability to command a room at both places. I know that that's an expression and that's a term that you've used, commanding a room, as a big deal.
Well, here's the thing. I believe you need to build a room. You build an O-line room, and you need the right mentality. And in order to build the room, you need somebody in the room to take control of that. Okay, you take control of the player takes control of the room, and then you can work through that guy. So when we had an opportunity, JoJo Wooden, who was with us at the Jets as a personnel guy, was out at San Diego. It was the Charger in San Diego at the time, came to me and said, hey, Slauson's available from Chicago. And I said, holy shit, this is the guy we need to help change the room by taking command. And we both went in to talk to the assistant GM, the finance guy there. Before we went to the GM, we kind of bypassed both the coordinator and Ken Wisenhunt and the head coach in Mike McCoy. We went around them to get you to be part of that room, and we were successful. And then the same thing happened at Indiana. I went down to the GM, went right in, and the GM, Chris Ballard, was with you at Chicago, so he was familiar with it. And he said, hey, listen, Slauson just became available. And I said, hey, we got to do because I needed that guy, and you were that guy. And I saw you do it as a 6th-round pick, surrounded by first rounders and intelligent guys, but you had a great command. And talking with you over the years and following you in Chicago, and then it was important for me to have you come into a room. And I mean, listen, in 2018 at the Colts, we had the best line in football. We had the equivalent of what the Lions are working with right now. We were feared. We dominated the National Football League. Didn't start out that way, but it created that way. But I needed your voice and your attitude and your demeanor and your football IQ to get the room pulled together. I told the GM, I said, give this guy 2 weeks and he'll own this room. I watched you come in. And it didn't take 2 weeks. It took 1 week. You stood up, you turned around and said, hey, we're going to golf on Saturday. Tell your wives, tell your girlfriends, whatever you got to tell them. I don't give a fuck. Everybody's going to be there. No excuses. I'll see you Saturday. We're going to be at such and such a golf course, and I don't want to hear any bullshit. You sat down, and I went right down the hall to the GM, and I said, hey, Chris, it didn't take 2 weeks. It took one. You showed them how to command a room. You were a shining example of what it's like. And one of the things in the NFL, and you know this, if you could spend 10 years in the National Football League, you're a warrior. You get it's almost like you get a special badge of badass badge. You know, you're a badass to be able to spend that long in the National Football League. So one of the experiences we had, okay, and this was, I think, maybe game 6 or 7 at the Colts. We go to New England. This was your last game as a player, and you probably remember it more vividly than I do. But I remember this. In the first half of that game, you all of a sudden, second quarter, I look over, and you're not sitting in your regular spot, and I sat everybody by position, and you're not sitting in your regular spot. And I looked at Ryan Kelly, and he was like kind of giving me like, hey, look over there. So I look over there, and you're sitting off to the side, and the trainer's working with you, and you're kind of giving like a shallow breathing thing, and he's trying to pull your chest plate and everything, and couldn't breathe. Mm-hmm. And at halftime, I said, hey, Doc, we got to check this fucking guy out because this guy, he's having trouble. Now, you're a badass. You continue to play, but it was something not right about you. And come to find out at halftime, they told me the little plates in your sternum were all separated and shifting all over the place and compressing your lungs or something to that effect. Am I correct in saying it that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was in the second quarter. You were right. We called 37 power. So I go pulling around on this power, and the Mike backer fired and caught me straight in the chest. Hardest I'd ever been hit. Trainers were all worried because they're like, if you broke your chest, you could have shards going into your lungs, and we could have a bad deal going on. I'm like, yeah, check me out at half. We'll do a quick x-ray. We did the x-ray, and they found there wasn't any shards, but the in your sternum, you have three plates of bone that are kind of fused together, and I broke the fusing in those plates. So there's nothing holding my sternum together now.
Nice.
And
nice.
And the docs are like, you shouldn't be playing. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I'm fine. You said there's no shards, so we're good. And I'm like, yeah, but you can take another shot like that, and you don't have the protection. I'm like, it's fine. I won't take another shot like that.
Well, let's return back to the field here now, going in the second half. And if I'm not mistaken, this one was Hightower. You go to cut him, and
wait, second half of this game. So you kept playing.
He's back in the game. Oh yeah. But remember now.
It almost feels like that was a dumb question I asked.
I didn't bring this guy to sit on the bench. He's not a bench sitter. Okay.
Well, and you have to understand a little bit more of the nuance of the current culture of the NFL at that time. So agents were then telling the players all across the league, if you're hurt, get the fuck out. You're done until you are 100% healthy. My perception, coming from the old ways, Googe, you came from the old ways. My perception is there's no such thing as 100%. You start training camp at whatever your new 100% is for that year, and that is the 100% that you will never see again.
Not that year. No, you're never healthy. If you say you're 100%, I've said this before, it's a lie. Nobody's 100%. Nobody is injury-free. Nobody is pain-free. There's no offensive lineman that wakes up in the morning in the National Football League that's playing and is completely pain-free, or you're not doing your job correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I'm sorry not to interrupt, but like I'm a fan who obviously I don't really know what the fuck I'm talking about, but there's like a difference between not 100% and a broken sternum and doctor telling you, hey, things could get pretty bad here, and you still being like, I'm gonna play. There's a huge difference.
That is different, but I understand what you're saying, Matt.
You are correct. And I do agree with you. I was a dumb fuck. And it gets worse as we continue on this story.
Let me say this.
It gets worse.
It does get worse because in the second half now, mind you, with the separated plates in the sternum, my man, he's out there. Tell us what exactly happened.
Yeah.
Tell us what was the diagnosis.
Yeah. So second play of the second half was that 37 power again. I now know that I have a broken chest. I can't take another shot like that in my chest. So I come pulling around on this power. I see Dante firing. I'm like, I can't take this hit in the chest. So I'm going low. I'm going to take out his knee, cut him in the hole. The back will see it and be able to bounce.
Not the technique of choice, by the way. But
no,
you got to do what you got to do when you have a broken sternum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so he lowers also to deliver that blow. We meet helmet to helmet, and I feel pop, 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 pop.
Oh man,
down my back.
Oh.
And I kind of go like trotting off a little bit, and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? I got all the shocks going down my arms, into my fingertips, down my legs and my toes. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, okay, you're still standing. So yes, something just happened. You just hurt something, but you're still standing here. If you can make it back to the huddle.
That was your first reaction?
Yeah. So I walk back to the huddle. And I go, see, you were being a little bitch. Let's see how the next play goes. So I play the next play. And luckily it was a passing play. I didn't have to go pulling around trying to fuck somebody up. I'm just, taking a pass set, blocking a guy. And that was fine. I'm like, oh, see, that was incomplete. That's when I come off the field and I'm sitting on the bench and now things are weird. But
oh yeah, they were weird.
I could still move. And I'm like, see, you're fine. You're fine. You probably, got a little nerve deal, stinger, whatever, maybe strained a trap or something. Mm-mm. It'll be fine. You just keep on playing. So I play the next 43 plays, and the game is now over. Now I go in. I don't say anything to anybody because I don't know. And I don't know if it was like a fear, a shock thing in my own mind that I'm overreacting. And I start to think like, what if this is a bad neck issue? I'm like, you just played 45 plays on a broken neck or potentially broken neck. You couldn't do that if it was broken. So just relax. Everything's fine. Get on the bus, call my wife. She goes, what the fuck happened? I go, what do you mean? And she goes, I watched everything. Yeah, a little choked up.
Well, Cammy plays a role in this. I mean, your wife, your kids at home, like it's a serious business.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But she knew you were hurt by watching the game?
She knew I was hurt. She said, what the fuck happened? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, I watched every play and you were playing different. I said, well.
That's an O-line coach's wife.
I was going to say,
that's an O-line coach's wife.
She could see it.
She could see it.
She's a big dog. Cammy is a big dog.
Real.
Let's give her props. Cammy is a big dog.
Yeah, she's
not physically, but she's a big dog mentally, heart-wise. She's a big dog.
She's a stud.
She's no question.
And so I told her, I said, well, I broke my chest. And she goes, what else? I said, what do you mean, what else? The chest isn't big enough? And she goes, I know
that's
you.
A great point, actually.
She goes, I know you. Mind you, she's Italian too.
Hold on. Always a common denominator. Always comes back to something like that. And a Chicago Italian too. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Exactly.
Serious business.
Hey, there you go.
Serious business.
Yeah, and she goes, there's got to be something else. And I said, well, what do you mean the chest isn't like big enough? And she goes, I know you're going to play through that and be fine. You're going to play like yourself. Something else happened.
Which is insane, by the way. Just throw that out there, especially from a fan perspective, to hear broken chest. You're like, oh, you're going to play through it. I know you. That's wow. Unbelievable, but continue.
Yeah. And I said, well, there is something else, but I can't tell you what it is.
Oh.
And she goes, why? And I said, because I made you a promise a lot of years ago. And that promise was early in my career when I'd be playing through shit like that. She said, I know you got to do what you do, but you have to promise me if it's head, neck, or back, you treat it different. And I promised her that. And when it came down to it, I broke my promise to her. And I said...
But in your defense, you didn't know exactly what you did.
Yeah, I didn't know. So I said, I'm not going to tell you what it is now because I don't know what it is. But I said, I'll be home like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'll get home. When I wake up tomorrow, let's just see how things are. And when I woke up the next day, I couldn't move. I couldn't move my head. I couldn't turn to the side. So she came in and she's like, "Are you ready to talk?" And I said, "Yeah." So I told her what had happened. And she goes, "All right, well, you have a scan today on your chest." I said, "Yep." She goes, Tell them about your neck, and they'll throw it on too, and you'll get that scanned, and then we'll just see." I said, "All right." I'll get up, get changed, and I'll go to the scan. And as I'm walking out of the house, she goes, "Oh, and if your neck is broken, you're fucking done. You're done, and we're going home." I said, "I got you." So I went in, got the scan, and they found everything. And then I go to the facility. I meet with the docs, and the doc says, "You have 9 breaks in your spine.
Oh, wow.
The last vertebrae of my neck was crushed. The first vertebrae of my back was snapped in half. And then I had 7 more breaks in my lumbar." And so I called her and told her the deal. And she goes, "So we're done, right?" I said, "Yeah, we're done." And that was it.
I kept you on. I thought it was very important. I went to the GM and said, I want Slaw here as part of my group. You were in the room, you were on the sideline, you had a headset, you kind of worked your way into the coaching field, kind of, and I know it broke your heart. It killed you because you're a warrior and you wanted to be out there doing battle with your guys, but you had such an effect commanding the room off the field. But I felt like on game day, it also was helpful to have you as a countering voice to me, so I could get after their ass and you could come in and be nice, or I could be calm and then you could come in and rip somebody a new ass, and they would take it a little differently because you played with them, you bled with them, you were out there with them. But when the bottom line is, when it was all over, you said, "Time to go home." Where is home?
Well, first of all, I have to say I'm very appreciative of you and the opportunities you've given me, sticking your neck out for me time and time again. But kind of ushering me into that coaching role meant a lot to me, because teams don't do that, as we know. They don't transition players like that straight into a coaching role. So for you being so huge and making that happen,
well, listen,
it meant a lot.
I enjoy you as a person. You're like family. You're like family to me. You're different than just a guy I coached. Obviously, I wouldn't have made the effort to bring you along. Plus, your family. Your wife. She's gold. I knew your wife. I knew your kids. It wasn't like you were a stranger to me. And I felt it was important that you be around. And I knew eventually you'd get into coaching.
Well, and I haven't, but what you did was you opened that door for me. And even after that year, when you moved on, Ballard even told me, because I was able to heal up relatively well to a point where I was actually cleared to play again.
I remember that.
That's wow.
I remember
that's
that.
Crazy.
We had this discussion, and I know you were, I know that Cammy made some decisions there for you, so it wasn't going to be any gray area. But I remember you kind of saying, they cleared me, and one of the things I vividly remember saying, not under my watch ever.
Yeah,
because I wouldn't, because I knew your family, and I did not want to see you being carted off the field in traction. No fucking way.
And Ballard said the same exact thing. When I met with him after this season was over, and we were talking about, the potential of me playing again. Cammy wasn't talking about me playing again.
No.
I was talking about me playing again. And Ballard sat me down. He goes, "Look, this is the situation. Yes, you're cleared to play again. It will not be here. I can't do that. I can't do that to you, your family, and myself. I can't in good conscience put you back out there. But if it is if it is truly something you want to do, there's already 3 teams calling to have you go play and do the same thing you did here that you did for us, to go do it there. Um, and he goes, if you want that, then I'll make it happen. But he goes, do me a favor, think about something else. I would like to offer you a job. I would like you to be the assistant O-line coach. And in 3 years, you will be the head O-line coach. And I'm looking at this like, holy shit. He brought Frank Wright in the room to do this pitch. Frank wanted it too. And he said, we want you to be the assistant. And in 3 years, this O-line will be yours. And you'll just be an NFL O-line coach. And I was like, holy shit. And I knew what that offer was. I mean, for them to just gift me an assistant O-line job straight out of playing, I mean, guys work for 10, 12, 15 years to get to that point of being able to be an assistant. And they're saying, no, you're skipping all that, and then you'll be the head O-line coach in a handful of years. I was like, oh my God. But then I stepped away. We took our end of the year O-line trip, and I got to be around the guys again as a player, and I started to realize, like, I don't know if I could do that yet. You know, what I've done, what me and my family have been a part of for so long, if I go straight into coaching, like, what the hell did I do all this for? You know, I worked so hard for so long for, on the back end, be able to be a dad and a husband and be able to spend time. It's like, I can't jump straight into this yet. And both Frank and Ballard both said, this is an open invitation. They said, as long as we have jobs somewhere, I may not be able to offer you an assistant O-line job, but if you want to get into this coaching world and we're somewhere, there will be an opportunity. And I was like, I really appreciate that, but I got to go home for a while and just be a dad. And so, to answer your question from 10 minutes ago, we retired to Nebraska, and we're now farmers and ranchers. And I coach my kids in their sports, and Cammie runs the business end of things on the farm. And
what do you grow?
We do sweet corn and pumpkins and squash and gourds. And then
okay, wait a minute. There isn't enough corn growers in Cornhuskerville. Like,
oh yeah, there's plenty.
You trying to get into that market.
Not to mention, we both spent time in Indiana, and all you see is cornfields.
Yeah, sweet corn is different than field corn.
Okay,
field corn, when you drive by these massive sections of fields with the 8-foot tall corn, that's field corn. That's for cattle feed and for fuel. So ethanol.
I'm a city guy.
I'm learning. I don't know any of this.
No track. That's right. Only corn I know is the corn you eat.
Yes.
That's it.
So the corn you eat.
The corn you pop. Like, there's 2 kinds of corn: eat corn, popcorn.
Yes.
I knew.
So sweet corn and popcorn, that's what us humans eat.
Okay.
But field corn, these massive hundreds of acre fields, that's all field corn. That's for ethanol fuel or for cattle.
But you don't grow that.
I own land where that is grown, but I crop share that out to other farmers that are set up for that.
Interesting.
That was my plan initially. Coming home, I was going to become a crop farmer. But then I quickly realized this isn't something that just some Joe Blow can get into. You have to have generational knowledge doing this, and also the money that goes along with that. I mean, just for me to get started would be $1 million of equipment. And that's just to do the planting and the harvest. But then you also have to have the knowledge, and there's so much technology that goes into this. When you go into satellite imagery, you go into all the core samples and all the chemicals that go along with that, and then all the ag preservation stuff. You just need a lot more knowledge that I was like, what am I doing here? So we need to find out something else. So I went to my wife and I said, look, you were a huge support to me in my career. What can I support you in now? What is a dream you've got? And she said, I think we should grow pumpkins. And I said, I don't know how to do that. I don't know what that means, but that means I can go buy a tractor and some equipment, and I'll figure it out.
Sure.
But I said, as far as the sales side of things, I don't know what to do with that, but I'll figure out how to get it in the ground, and I'll take care of it and figure out how to harvest it, and then you just figure out the rest. And she says, sweet, got it.
Nice. So pumpkin, you're a pumpkin farmer.
That is wild.
But I want to ask you a question that's critical to our show. It's very important.
This is super important.
Being that Cammie is Italian and she's from Chicago, and the fact that you lived in New Jersey and then worked in the New York, New Jersey area, my question to you is Italian food.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite Italian food? How do you see Italian food? And do you enjoy Italian food?
Oh, I don't think I've met an Italian dish I don't like.
Let's go.
You look like that. You give off the impression that you enjoy Italian food.
Yeah, I'm still at my playing weight just in case a team wants to call.
Absolutely.
Just be like,
Absolutely.
hey, I will be able to give you about 10 minutes in a game that will be the best you've ever seen.
Well, there's big demand for an old, fused neck, Italian food eating pumpkin farm.
Hey, stay ready.
We're always looking for that on our offensive line.
Let's go. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I love it.
No question. But what would you order?
Oh, I guess it just kind of comes down to what mood I'm in. I'm not in a pasta mood a lot.
You look like it. You look like you are.
I tend to gravitate more to the lasagnas and the calzones.
Nice. Well, you like a full roll of things.
Yeah, nice big hearty. A lot of meat jammed in there, and all the
cheese.
carbs.
Yeah, you want to be full. You want to come out of there with a full belly where you're going to fall asleep immediately as soon as you hit the couch.
Smart move.
I want to, next time we talk, I want to hear about, because we're going to wrap up here, I want to hear about how you churning butter like the Pilgrims used to do, and, making your own, pasteurizing your own milk, and like a plantation, you get chickens. I know you have chickens. How many chickens?
We got 20 something now.
20 something chickens.
We had 15. Well, actually, I think we have over 20 something now. We had 15, and then Cammie went to the local Tractor Supply, because every spring, they have their baby chicks, baby ducks, baby whatever.
I've seen this at a Tractor Supply stuff. You've never gone?
Nah, I've never.
Yeah. So she went in to get a handful more. And turns out 3 of those baby chicks were actually roosters.
Ooh.
And that causes a problem, because I just walked outside the other day and saw a couple baby chicks, and I was like, Cammie didn't get any new chickens since back in the spring. So I go to her, I said, did you get some new chicks? And she goes, no. I said, well, there's like 5 or 6 of them out there. She goes, hold on. And she goes running out there. There was 12 baby chicks.
Nice.
That they had.
Nice. If you could only get your cows, your beef to do the same thing, you'd save a shit ton of money.
I have a funny story about that too. So we have one micro, and he's a bull. So he's our herd bull right now. So we're in the process of growing our herd. So we have our beef line set, but we bred him to all the cows. So that way the offspring from the Herefords will be smaller. So that way our next micro bull we'll be able to have a micro bull for the smaller ones, and then we'll have a bigger Hereford bull for the bigger ones, and then we'll have a true beef side and a pet side. Well, I got this bull about 1.5 years ago. He was so small. He was a baby when we got him. And this spring, I went to go have him collected, which is a whole different experience. Pretty much they semen test him, and then, as long as he passes, then they collect his semen, so that way you can freeze it and use him for breeding in the future, where you don't necessarily need to keep the bull there, where you can artificially inseminate the cows. But he's so small, he wasn't able to mount the cows. And so I just left him out there. The micros are only about 3 feet tall, whereas, the standard size is up in that 5 foot tall range at the back. So I would see him all the time. The cows, when it's time for them to be bred, they want to be bred. They understand what they are there for. So they back up to him. They push their hind end right in his face so he can smell them and go, okay, it's time. And I've seen him try to hop up there and he just cannot get there. I'm like, okay, we'll just leave him in the field. It'll be fine. When he's old enough, we'll get him collected, and then I'll AI everybody with his sperm, and then we'll continue on from there. Right before I had him collected, Cammy goes, we need to get these cows preg checked first to make sure that they're open and ready to be AI'd. And I said, okay, well, maybe there'll be one where, he was able to figure it out or whatever. Our whole herd was bred.
Oh, he was after it. Micro mini me cow was getting after it.
So I was baffled, but what I found was the cows want it so bad that they lay down for him, and then he crawls up over the top of them, and that's how he does it.
I'll tell you what. You know what? It's like Tattoo on Fantasy Island. Hervé Villachez. The rumor was that he was a stud. Tattoo was a stud. So you got the Tattoo. You got the Hervé Villachez of cows breeding them all. They're laying down for him. What saves you a lot of trouble. Have to impregnate the cows by getting Tattoo to get all over those things. You got to name him that.
I never thought we'd be talking about bull semen on InTrench'd. I just didn't think that was going to be a thing, but here we are.
I want to know the one thing about InTrench'd. We go in many different directions. All right. And in this particular case, we've gone in a direction we probably shouldn't go. But, our viewers really want to know what's going on in the life of a guy like Matt Slauson, a big dog, a former interior lineman in the National Football League. And to me, Matt, there's so much to the story. We could go on for hours and hours because you're a complex guy. You've played at many places. You played at some really big cities and obviously multiple teams in the National Football League. You've had a lot of success, made a lot of money. I know the way the league works, you probably wish you were playing nowadays where guards make $9 million to play half a season. It's just amazing the kind of money that these guys are making. And, God bless them. I was always a believer that I want guys to make money. I want guys to do well. I want guys to, I want my guys to play for me, but if they can make money elsewhere, God bless them. That's the way it looks. But it was an honor to have you on the show, and it just as it was to coach you at one point. And I bid you the best on the farm. Maybe one day I'll make it to Nebraska, Dylan.
Gonna have to.
And I'll get out there.
I hope you do.
And I'll see what it looks like out there.
Get one of these pumpkins.
Sit out in a pumpkin patch and get a pumpkin and watch Tattoo the cow jump on these other cows that are laying down, and what the miniature goat, the giant goat cow,
Come back, report all about it.
I tell you what, I am excited. But it seems to me, from what you're telling me, Cammy runs a lot. She got her way with the micro cow eventually. So she's now we're going to be breeding pets. So she's right about the pumpkins. She's right about the micro cows. She's right about. So you just stick with listen, she's Italian. The percentages say she's going to be right about a lot of shit. So just stick with Cammy. She was right about you not playing anymore.
There you go.
There's a lot of things she was right about. And give Cammy our best. And I wish you the best out on the farm. And thank you for joining us here on InTrench'd.
Well, guys, I appreciate the time. Googe, I appreciate you and everything you've done for me and my family. I love the opportunity to come on the show and share and reminisce about our times.
A lot of good times, man. A lot of good times.
So many great things when you talk about that catch up with Matt Slauson right there. Big dog. Just unbelievable, though. I mean, you talk about he breaks his chest, continues in the game, suffers the neck injury, and still ends up finishing that game. I mean, I can't even fathom that. What an unbelievable warrior.
Well, he talked about how much he felt he owed Bill Callahan, and he wanted to help prove Bill Callahan right. And I think you talk about a guy that wants to do for his coach and prove to everybody that he's a great player, he's a great teammate, he's a great guy, he's a service person. He's all about his service to a team and a coach. I'm honored to have coached him. I'm also in complete awe of the toughness, the physical and mental toughness of an individual that could play with a broken chest and a broken neck and back, and finish out a football game against a powerful New England football team. I mean, you're talking about really elite level torture and pain that this guy must have been going through, yet he finished the game. Now, it's not often you get to say, well, I coached him in his last game of his career, and I coached him in his last game of his career. Just an amazing individual. I can't say enough about him as a person and as a player.
Oh, it was unbelievable through all of that was the way that he talked about the broken chest as if it was just like a sprained ankle. That is such a serious injury. He suffers another serious injury, but just hearing from him and that toughness, I mean, I think it just epitomizes a lot of what this show is about.
Well, listen, you hear that from this guy, and then you say to yourself, why was he successful? Here's a guy you never heard of. Some people have never heard of. Well, why was he so successful? Why was he able to play 10 years in the league? Why is he able to be a complete stranger to the world of farming and end up in the middle of Nebraska and decide to grow pumpkins and mini cows? Like this cat has the drive and the focus and the toughness to do anything. He'll overcome anything. And if that means overcoming a broken chest to play, to get a broken neck, to overcome that, and to continue to play, that's what you got. And that's why he's special to me.
Just unbelievable stuff. I mean, you just can't even begin to fathom that. But great stuff with Matt Slauson. That's going to do it. Another episode of InTrench'd. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow all the social media platforms. Again, that is @InTrench'd. And we'll see you next time.